Okay, a few more fun little things to call out here. Let's come back up to here. Just keep everything in Megascans just to make it easier on me. And let's talk about some stuff here. Oh, wrong engine. That hotkey doesn't work. Just kind of plop that little texture in. Give a shout out to my favorite band of all time to do this little demo. Okay. So what I want to talk about first and foremost are panning textures, okay? And what is a panning texture? If I hit P on the keyboard, I have P for panner. Okay, this panner has two inputs, and it also has two coordinates. We have a constant input, and then we can actually split out these by different variables. Like we could plug in sine waves and different things into them if we wanted to. Okay, so let's see what this thing does. We have our awesome logo right here. Put it into our UVs. And I'm going to give this variable like just speed, okay? Leaving it at coordinate 0 because for those of you guys who don't know, Unreal is a zero-based counter, which basically means when it counts its UV domains, it goes 0 as in 1 UV set, 1 as in UV set 2, 2 as in UV set 3, and so forth and so on. Okay, 0 is called zero-based counting. It basically means for each integer, it is counted as an actual set. So 0 is an integer, and it's counted. If that makes any sense at all. So I'm going to plug this panner in there, and we have the Motorhead Sphere of Doom. Okay, so this is useful for a bunch of different things. If you wanted to, you could, I'm going to make this at 0.2 in the other one so it looks a little better. If you wanted to, scrolling textures, signs, all kinds of cool stuff. This is also really useful for those of you guys who are interested in doing effects work as well. So I'm just going to save this guy. And we're going to throw him on there. Save. Drag and drop him on there. Okay. Got our little logo there. All right, now let's play around with this even more. So obviously we could go ahead and plug this into the metallic. It's going to move where it should. And the roughness as well. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, we actually probably want this to be inverted. So let's just drop a 1 minus onto that. Okay, it's straight reflecting the environment. Okay, which obviously we don't want for the metallic because it's going to look a little weird. So maybe we just add an add node onto that. And add, let's see what we got here. Maybe like 0.2. Or, sorry, multiply node. Just to darken it down a little bit. Okay. Again, this is black and white, so it's not going to look the greatest, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now, what else can we do? Okay. Now, in our shader here, and there's a lot we can do with panner nodes, but I just want to introduce you to them, like as a brief kind of, hey, don't forget this if you want to do scrolling water or anything. I mean, I could probably use the water texture. Would have made more sense than the Motorhead texture, to be honest with you. Also, plug this into the emissive as well. And actually, what we'll do here, so we can have something a little cooler, so we're going to multiply this by a color, 3 vector on the emissive. Okay, pretty cool. And then let's multiply that again by something a little bit more intense. Say that Ta-da. Starting to get into like some type of weird Tron hell. Obviously, I didn't make this logo. This is Motorhead's logo. It says it on the screen. Um, but it's pretty cool. Like, you can do a lot with it. And you can also notice it's picking up in the reflections, which is fucking awesome. The other thing, too, that we can do is we can stack multiple painter nodes across, right? So if I was to take this, I can, put a different number inside of here, and it's going to do this. It's going to spin and rotate, right? We could obviously multiply different textures across for different swirling water effects if we wanted to. Let me just see this. If we type in rotator, we're going to get this guy here, and I'll show you what this does. This is a bit more expensive, by the way, or at least it was in UE3. Let me see. Apply that. I'm just looking down here for my stats. 14 out of 16, 68 instructions. 30. Wow, what the hell? Am I reading that right? Did I go from 68 to... Yeah, okay, so it is slightly more expensive. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. But we can obviously do cool like little rotation effects and stuff, right? So again, really useful, and you can do a lot of things with it. And you can stack these things, man. You can, get all kinds of weird with it. I don't recommend doing this because it's going to give you a really shitty effect. See here if I can slow this way down. I think it's actually going to work. Yeah, we'd have to multiply that against a different node. Let's just show you, I'll show you really quick what that multiply looks like. We got this little rotator going down. Now, by the way, if you duplicate a texture in here and it already uses it, the engine's smart enough not to do another texture call. Pretty cool, pretty useful. Actually, not even pretty. It's very useful. If we look down here at this output, let's see if it's going to give me the output. Come on, be difficult. What the hell? Start previewing. Aha. Why are you giving me an error? Arithmetic between float 3 are undefined. No, it's not. I just used you. Oh, God damn it, David. I know what I'm doing wrong. My bad. Yeah, I was like, why isn't that showing up? Okay, so we can see that going across it. And again, you can layer this up for some pretty cool effects, right? I'm just going to start replacing parts of the function. Stop previewing it. Let's go ahead and see where you are going. It's going straight into the roughness. So let's put that multiply node right into that. Multiply. It's going into that. Even though that should be getting the emissive, I don't know why it's not. Why are you not getting the emissive? Even though that does look cool, that's not what I want. Let's see here. This is going into here, which is getting multiplied across by those two nodes. That should be definitely giving me the emissive. That is bizarro. Oh, Jesus. It's not bypassing the emissive, it's just bypassing the base color. Okay, you can't really see anything now. It's creepy though. It's getting weird. But you know, you can do this, and with a a correct texture or whatever on it, it'll look really really cool. You can really push it pretty far. And again, I recommend you guys playing around with it. This stuff works really great for doing effects. We're not going to do effects in this tutorial. It's just too much stuff to talk about. So so we've covered materials, material functions. We talked about some nodes, talked about some panners. Let's talk also about UV coordinates really, really quick. Ta-da! I have an asset that we used earlier. That's at the wrong scale, but that's okay. We can talk about this. Actually, I'm going to... How do I want to do this? I'll just do it this way. UV unwrap. Okay, so UV channel 1, right? Those are the UVs. Hopefully everyone's paying attention to that because they're going to change. UV channel 2. I'm going to say move because I'm in max and it doesn't make any sense the way it describes this. And I'm going to switch it to something that I'm going to be able to obviously tell it's messed up. Okay, and UV set 3, let's move this, and let's just say, actually we don't even need to do a UV set 3, you just use UV set 2. That's fine, even if there is an additional one, it doesn't matter. Move. Okay, now, just like in 3D Studio Max, where I can say, hey, checker, I want you to only affect UV set 1. Or, hey, I'd like you to affect UV set 2. We do the exact same thing inside of Unreal, okay? And let's do that right now. So we're going to convert this to editable poly. File, export selected, whatever. It's going on the desktop. Demo. I'm going to render out this map so we can see this. Save this out as a BMP because it's not going to have any RGB values. Checker. Hope I saved that out right. It rendered. Come back into here. Look at that, looks like some out of Tron. We're going to come back onto the desktop. We're going to drag both those guys in here. Again, for the demo, not worrying too much about the pathing or any of that kind of shit. We don't need to worry about that right now. Come on, dude. You are irritating me. Camtasia, you're killing my computer. It's amazing. A $7,000 computer with some of the highest end pieces of hardware that you can buy, or you could buy at the time. And Camtasia, 32-bit software, manages to bring it to its knees. Lovely. Okay, so let's go ahead and path this texture in. There's a sphere. It's an amazing model, I know. Spent all day doing it. By the way, I just would like to point out that even dropping a basic asset into this engine, it still looks good. Like with, basic, lighting rig and that kind of stuff, that still looks very nice. Now, fortunately for those of you guys who are young enough, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I'm sounding old, this is huge because like most game engines like Torque and Unreal 2 and Unreal and just the originals, the Source, all that kind of, it's a nightmare to make stuff look good. Here, you guys just drop something in it and you got something that looks nice. It's amazing. Anyway, hit P for, actually we can do it right off here. So obviously on the panners we can tell it what coordinate to go into and use. Is it U? That's a texture coordinate. Okay, again, we can use a variable to expose that. We can use this as something to expose. If I say, hey, Switch to UV set 1. Apply that. Wait a minute. Come on. UV set. Oh, wait, hold on. Did I not save it out? That should work. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. I'm doing this. Okay, so we're going to move quick on this because I just lost like 40 minutes worth of recording because Camtasia is terrible right now. I have no idea what this thing's doing. But long story short, I wanted to follow up on this and just explain why you didn't see the secondary UV set. That would be because I didn't export it correctly. So it's not even export it correctly. I deleted it. But there's our secondary UV set, so you can see the actual stretching. Now, why would you want a secondary UV set? A couple different reasons. You can do a bunch of effects for texturing. You can do different scrolling patterns. You can do different effects. You can use different, you can project different decal sets. You can do all kinds of things with it. And again, some of that stuff is outside of the scope of this tutorial. But if we look at this asset here, another thing, if we're inside this window, by the way, you guys can do navigation just like you could inside of the normal Unreal Engine. Right-click in this window, WASD, you know. If you hold L and left-click, you can kind of get this light and kind of control it and navigate it around. You have to be careful. You have to move it around and kind of switch it, but you guys can kind of see the asset by doing that. If we click up here, and this is our model browser window, obviously, we click this, we can see our UVs. These are terrible, but whatever, they're UVs. If I hit this UV channel 1, we can see the auto-generated light maps. And let's just look at generate light maps here. So I have this set to, let me actually find the light map here. It's literally building auto-generating light maps based off of this. Now, I can specify if I wanted to, and I wasn't being lazy, I could actually make a UV a light map set. But since I've uniquely mapped the first UV set, I can say, hey, don't generate it. Use the first set, and by default, it's going to be at 64. Like I said, I went through and put this at 128 because I already went through and built this. Let's go ahead, rebuild that. It should just take a second, so I'm going to pause the video. And if there were light map errors, you'd see them here, just like you do in this guy. And if I click this window or click here, I can see the asset that it selects. And if I fly all the way over here, I can see that it is red, showing the overlapping UVs, okay, at 50%. Now, how did I get that information to show? If I come underneath this tab here under Build, I have Use Error Coloring checked on, okay? And I have to rebuild for this to go away, but if I turn that off, you can see it. Now, is it always necessary to have 0 light map UVing? No. You can. There are some times when you can have 0.02 or 0.3. No one's going to know. But I do recommend, trying to be clean with your light map UVs. Now, we're not going to go into a ton of work on to explain how to generate light map UVs. Most of the time, auto-generating or auto-mapping your light map UVs are going to be fine. Just make sure you give yourself enough bleed room on the UV shells. And again, we're not going to have a ton of time just because I have to be careful with my drive space just because I don't have enough space on here. Moving right along. Since we're talking about light map UVs, let's talk about lights. Any light inside of Unreal, spot, point, directional, which can be picked up on our light tab, have 3 settings. We have movable, stationary, static. If I mouse over these, I can see all of the information about them that I would need to know. In terms of cost, it goes most expensive, moderately expensive, cheapest. In VR, if we were doing this for a VR simulator, for a VR space, arguably this space is really simple, so we could probably get away with running a dynamic light over the entire scene. If we were running a scene, a really big forest with a bunch of stuff, that probably won't run in VR anyway. But it's actually probably cheaper to run a dynamic light over the entire set than rather to pay for all of the baking times of all of the shadow maps, okay? These shadow maps get baked. When I go and bake this, it launches this guy. This is called a swarm agent. This is what you would, would be running on your computer to handle distributed rendering, and you can actually go through and see it going through and doing all of that, okay? When I build, obviously. I'm not building right now. For iteration, I recommend you guys stay on stationary. Stationary will give you all the functionality of a dynamic light without all the cost. Well, not all of this functionality. If we move it, we'd have to rebake. Same with stationary on our skylight. This gives us the ability to go in and adjust our settings to our heart's content. Leave it back at 1. Okay. Obviously, there's 3 different kinds of lights that you guys will, well, 4, but you'll probably be placing the majority of these as either spotlights or a point light. Okay. Directional light, you only really need 1 in the scene. I don't think you might not even be able to have more than 1, but you might. I don't know. Turn off effects world so you guys can see what this does. On your point lights, we're not going to go into every single setting in here. We just don't have the time. The thing I would recommend you playing around with is your attenuation radius. This is your light fall off, okay? Obviously your intensity, adjust the brightness. Spotlights, okay, and again, you can see this option here that I'm going to show in the spotlights. Spotlights tend to make the most sense with this. Spotlights, obviously we can use static or dynamic for them. But they also take IES files. And those are really useful. Those allow you to basically create lighting profiles. So really useful, and you can download those off the internet in any space.ies files, which you're going to want to be searching for. Okay, and moving forward, we just, nope. Pull that back. If you hit this little arrow right here, that'll reset, and it works for a bunch of menu options. Wherever you see that, you can just hold that arrow back and it'll reset it. But the other thing too that lights do, if I right click and do material. Now this stuff is also accessible via blueprints, but that is not something I would consider necessarily an intro course, but you guys can definitely look up blueprints and learn more about that. But I want to talk about light functions. Okay, so light function. This is going to, I believe it's going to set it to stationary and to dynamic. But what these do is, let me find this time. Oh, here we go. I already put this in for us. Here we go. Let's save this. This is a very basic light function. I just want to show you guys what this can do. Save that. And here we go. F for light function, or you can just type it in. Light function basically is a material that animates a light. Okay, so we can do all kinds of crazy stuff with this, right? Obviously, we could take that result, multiply that by a 3-color vector, and we could also come in here. Where did I put that? Where did I put my little texture? I'm looking for something. Hold on. Nope. 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 Damn it, where the hell are you? There's my little glowy material. Oop. Find him in here. Oh, it's under panners. Drag this texture into here. Run another multiply node against this. Run that into the emissive. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So hopefully that's giving you guys some pretty cool ideas of what you could do with this. This is really nice for doing all sorts of fun little things. Now, let me show you guys this. Oh, where is it? Whoa, why did that not show? That's weird. That should have shown. Weird. Why did that not show the lighting complexity? Huh, weird. Oh, there it goes. Okay. And where this thing starts to turn red is it starts to get really expensive. So I'll just turn this guy back on really quick so you can kind of start to see what's going to happen. Effects world and movable. Let's duplicate 3 of them in here. Stacking the lights on there. Obviously this is going to look weird as hell, but you'll get the idea. And this, as that gets more complex, obviously it gets more and more expensive. Now, oopsie. Turn that off. So just be careful. The other thing to talk about is, see that light cone? Watch what happens. Let me see here. Oops. Huh, this should be doing it. Let me see if it'll do it with off the point lights here. That actually should not be doing this. Let me see if this will throw it if I hit play. And let me see if this builds really quick. I'm just trying to throw in a lighting error, so hold on. So if you have 4 or more of these stationary lights, you're going to get one that's invalid, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? And there's ways to adjust it. Either delete it or you adjust the source radius, right? Or not the source, but the actual attenuation radius, okay? This guy. And let me pull this guy back in. It's still overlapping, so we'd have to actually move it outside of that space. Okay, which is totally fine. You definitely can do that. Okay, but if it goes back into that zone, it's not going to light correctly. What else? Obviously, movable, it doesn't matter, but again, as you get more and more movable lights into it, there it goes. Movable is going to do the exact same thing. There it is. So 4, okay. Oops, sorry. Just grab all of those and set those to movable. Okay, since they're dynamic lights, they're not going to care. Okay, but again, exponentially way more expensive. So just be careful with it as you're doing that. And with point lights, again, you know, I always try to caution you guys on, you know, doing too many crazy things. So just keep that in mind as you guys are working away. The other thing, another resource here, talk about, is this guy. Okay, this is a troubleshooting guide, and this is going to go much more into depth than I'm going to on lighting. It's going to talk about bleeds. It'll talk about similar to the stuff that we mentioned, the cascading shadow volumes, the cascading transition points, all of that. Okay, and it's super, super useful to go in and talk about. It'll talk about the lighting errors and everything, and it's very in depth. Okay, guys. So again, right here, this is what you're going to want to do and look at. The Unreal Wiki is your guys' friends, and I really recommend that you guys go in and utilize it and use it. Okay, so let's turn lighting back on this guy. Effect world. Let's nuke out the extra stuff that we don't need. Obviously, we're going to need some nice little GI looking stuff. And that is going to pretty much give us the basics for our shadows and our lightings, and wrap up kind of the material portion and light map portion of the demo. Again, there is much more to this stuff than what I've talked about. Okay, there is. light mapping and that kind of stuff. It can get very in-depth if you're doing stuff on mobile. You may even have to align stuff to UV grids and that kind of thing. But for basic Unreal stuff, you're not going to need to do that. You can just rely on auto mapping your UVs and whatnot. And if there's overlapping UVs, again, it's going to flag an error here so you guys can see it. It'll also, hey, look at all my devices. And if we want to see any lighting errors, again, we can enable lighting error color, use error coloring, and see where we have overlapping UVs and whatnot. Okay. And I think that that's going to put us in a good spot to move on to finally the next thing, which should be normal mapping.